Right now, humanity's attention span is the shortest it has ever been. So that's the big thing, is figuring out a way to get right to the point and providing the most value as possible.
Welcome to Profession Session. I'm your host, Brody Vinson, and in this show, I interview all kinds of professionals across all different industries, whether it be corporate leaders or business owners and entrepreneurs. And today, I actually have a couple of repeat guests on just to talk a little bit about what they've done since the last time we talked on Profession Session. So I've got Andy Varnes and Devin Roberts with me today. Guys, thank you for being on.
How you guys doing?
Hey, what's up? How y'all
Good
doing?
to have you guys. I'm excited to get into it. Where do we start?
I want to start with y'all's studio.
Yeah, so one thing that will be really cool to talk about is Devin and I have been building out a studio together in Orlando, and Andy has continued to build out his studio in Jacksonville. We're both kind of just working on our own content recording studio situations here.
So how right was I when I said it's a rabbit hole when y'all enter this
It's
thing
expensive.
of camera gear and
it gets
equipment? It's never enough.
Yeah, people watching at home gotta be like, oh, a black background and a couch. I could do that, but there's no way they could imagine how much goes into a production like this.
For me, at least, before I ever did a podcast, I kind of just imagined a camera and some kind of recording equipment. You don't really think about it, but it really adds up because you get into this kind of situation where like you want the quality of it to be really good, and then you just realize there's a lot of things associated with it. Just building out a studio.
Do y'all want to go into the actual breakdown of everything? I mean,
We
just
could.
like the budget.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
completely down.
That's actually a great idea.
I really wish someone would be like, hey, I've gone back and forth about saying I should start a YouTube channel, but okay, how much it actually costs to run a studio? Like,
Let's get into it.
Let's get into
Should I
it.
pull up our expense sheet even?
That's probably a good way to do it because I think
Yeah.
you've done it on a little bit more of an advanced level, Andy. You had a little bit of a media thing going ahead of time. Me and Brody are like we were pretty good at social media and then decided to open a studio. I think ours is kind of, I don't want to say bare bones, but someone at home that's looking into doing something similar or looking into a similar budget, I think it would be really
yeah. I mean, I think I definitely did have. I probably had all my camera equipment. Obviously, okay, that probably equated to about $10,000 worth of stuff.
Yeah,
So-
you had a lot of stuff going into opening the studio already.
So
Even having all that stuff already, just all the furniture and all that stuff. And yours is a bigger scale thing. I mean, we've basically got like two little rooms next to each other, but you've got two pretty big rooms and then a huge kind of back studio.
yeah, a big warehouse, and that's never ending.
it's never ending.
All right, here, y'all break down y'all stuff first.
Basically, we have kind of a sheet that just keeps track of like everything Devin and I have put in together.
It's an expense report of everything we've done on the project so far.
Yeah. So rent. So we've got two rooms together. The biggest recurring expense would be the rent. So we split $1,060 a month in rent. So for two rooms, one room is kind of our office / content recording room. We're still working on building that out a little bit of a secondary piece to the whole thing. But then we've got the podcast studio, which is an 8x10 room, 8x10 feet. And it's essentially just $530 a month for that room. We've got it for whenever we could want it. The really cool thing about having that is when we started looking into doing podcasts at first, a lot of the options out there for studios that you can go and rent were like, first of all, way more expensive than that. It was like minimum $70 an hour a lot of times to even be able to use a room, and then you get no assistance with that. So it's still like you're still doing everything on your own. But the other thing is typically they were limited to a lot of times Monday through Friday between 9 and 5. And if you're working and you're trying to do podcasts with other people who are working, there's no way you can really make it happen that way.
I think my best times in the studio have probably been outside of the Monday through Friday 9 to 5 when I'm in Orlando. And us being able to find a place that was, in the heart of Florida at such a reasonable rate was something we spent a lot of time on. You toured multiple places. We considered a lot of what we wanted, what we needed and didn't need to pull the price down to, kind of the bare essentials of what made a studio. I think that's the reason we were able to find it at a price that was reasonable while we still have, expenses in other parts of our lives.
Yeah, one thing that makes me think of that's kind of a cool thing right now is we're in this awesome office building with a bunch of other different companies in it, and there's still plenty of vacant spaces in it because it's kind of coming off of COVID. A lot of companies moved out of this particular building and realized that they didn't necessarily need to move back. So there's a lot of opportunity out there to find a good space for a cheap price right now. I mean, you said we're right in the heart of Orlando. We're literally right downtown, like right in the middle of downtown.
Orange Avenue, like as
off
center.
Of Orange Avenue. And I mean, it's a prime location. You can literally walk to all the major bank buildings and off of Orange and restaurants and everything. And then Andy's got his studio right here and as the heart of Jacksonville, as close as you can get, basically right off of Town Center.
Right off of Town Center, right.
For pretty reasonable rent for what? I mean, you've got a lot
more. I mean,
it's a lot more.
It adds up really quickly.
Oh, yeah.
I will say. I mean,
we get to split ours.
I have a lot. So a breakdown of mine, I pay about $2,100 a month by myself, which isn't fun.
Way more than double the space that we have, I will say.
Yeah, so it's about 1,900 square feet.
Yeah.
So it's about 1,000 square feet of kind of office space, and then about 900 square feet of warehouse space, of which currently the warehouse is essentially kind of our photo studio that people that haven't come by yet. But currently,
I'll put it in the link of the show notes and of the YouTube details, but check out at Varnes Media to see all of his stuff. There's a lot of good content on this.
Yeah, lots of mistakes that I've made and holes in the wall. Yeah. And currently the warehouse as of right now, it is mid August and everything, so it's a little warm back there. We got the fans blowing, 24/7 and
the fans yet. I need to go back.
Yeah, so the fan. I mean, it's still hot, but it works. Mm-hmm. It's a blast. But I mean, obviously, like for me, like rent is the biggest expense at this point. If I can set aside about $1,000 a month to reinvest it, that's kind of what I've been doing previously in either new equipment. Furniture is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Upgrade cost.
Yeah. But basically, just like, okay, what's $1,000 that I can upgrade? So when I went into the venture, you obviously have your security deposit, first month's rent. You kind of have all those go into it. So that's $5,000 basically right off the bat.
Yeah, I'd say you definitely need $5,000.
Then off the bat. One thing we should mention with yours that was a really cool thing is the deal that you worked with your landlord when you were first moving in. That's something that could be good to ask for in certain situations.
Yeah, so basically I got a couple of months rent for tenant improvement. Mm-hmm. So that kind of that definitely helped out.
2 months before you had to pay it, which is huge. Like if you're thinking about setting something like this up, it's a very reasonable thing to ask for because ultimately you're going to be improving the space a lot and making it usable for something that it previously wasn't before.
I think the big thing is coming in with a plan to tell them this, saying, hey, here's everything I'm going to do to it, and I'm eventually probably going to leave here, and so you're going to be left with all this. What I didn't tell them was that I will be doing all of this to the walls, and that was going to be a hard one to explain.
We actually did. Yeah. We told our lady, we said, I kind of came in there. It's a beautiful place that we got. I'll be honest, when I was touring it, I was skeptical because I just assumed there was no way they were going to let us do everything I want to do. We explained, we're completely covering the walls. We are going to be mounting things on every wall. We're going to hang things from the ceiling. You good with us hanging things from the ceiling? Like, we went over everything, and she was very reasonable and explained to us. I mean, she comes in and checks in every now and then, just sees our progress on it, and
she loves it.
She's come and checked in at times where she's come in and grabbed a Sharpie from a different room and Sharpied a spot on the wall that needed to be black
was her
between two
suggestion.
soundboards. She's like, get Sharpie in there, like when Sharpie in for us.
That's
So
awesome.
having someone to work with us
sounds
like
great.
that, she is. She's fantastic. And having someone who's willing to
out
work
Barb.
with us. Yeah, shout out to Barb. I think we value someone who's willing to work with us like that a lot. And you really need to know like the exact scale that you're going to take your project to, so that, in the beginning, I mean, you're at the point where I'm sure they're going to be happy with what you've done with the studio. But in the beginning, you can let them know up front, hey, here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm mounting, here's what I intend to put in here. Partially because it makes you look more professional, and it makes sure you're getting the right place that's not going to charge you thousands of dollars as you're leaving.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
if I had to kind of guess as to why it's not that big of a problem, it's a cool thing that we're bringing to the office building. And there's a couple other companies and offices right around us, and we're on very good terms with them. At least one of them we talk to all the time. Shout out Maria, previous podcast.
So many shout outs on that.
And it's just like a cool thing to have in the atmosphere of the building. I think it brings a kind of culture to the building that they probably enjoy seeing, and will hopefully play some kind of part and maybe bring other people to the building, at least at some point, or maybe they see it that way.
I mean, it's definitely a good marketing thing for the building to say, hey, we have a podcast studio in here that we can rent, or something like that.
Yeah, ultimately, the more diverse range of businesses that they can show are in their building and using it, the more possible businesses it applies to.
Attracts other people.
It does. So the rent is probably the biggest cost for both of us. Another big one, just talking about some of the equipment, because Andy had a lot of the equipment already. We were kind of starting from scratch.
Oh, yeah. No, equipment wound up adding up way quicker than we expected.
And Andy warned us up and down, but
I tried.
Didn't listen as much as we should.
I tried.
I mean, and it really, for me, what surprised me was I thought the individual cameras and lenses and things would be more expensive each themselves, but what really daunted me was how many of everything we need. I thought we'd buy 2 cameras and we're good, 2 lights and we're good. We need 4 or 5 or 6 different lights, different strength, different weaknesses. One's to light the wall behind us, cameras for angles on us, wide angles, extra cameras for travel, GoPros for backup, everything that we put into this. And that's just getting into cameras and lighting. I mean, we spent thousands on just soundboard for the walls.
Yeah, the soundboards.
Break down the soundboards real quick. Yours was a lot more than mine.
Yeah. So we decided to go a little bit of a unique direction with our soundboard. You could probably see right behind me. Like Andy's got kind of standard soundboard on here. The squares that you usually see that are kind of like vertical and horizontal stripes on them, they're kind of textured. But we went a little bit different direction with ours and wanted to kind of make a decorative piece out of it as well. And we ordered, what would you say, like a third of what we needed, thinking we ordered enough at first?
We ordered Hexagon Soundboards and had a pattern that we intended to do with them where essentially it's a giant fat black stripe through the center of a white room, so that there would be a black background behind our heads when we were doing videos. And we estimated the amount we would need, I think a lot based on our pocketbooks more than maybe necessarily the square footage of the room. We were like, $1,000 worth of soundboard sounds like plenty. We can't.
500.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're right. We came a little ways up closer to that, and yeah. So you're right. In the initial round, we only put in $500 worth into it, and we were like, just for wall covering, wallpaper's not that expensive. This is just wall covering, and we wanted the best looking walls we possibly could for this background. You have a little more space. It was one small room. If we're going to do one smaller room, it needs to be as quality as we can possibly make it. Hopefully,
most of the space.
Yeah, and we won't be there for a long time. So it's like if you're going to be recording this podcast and I'm going to be recording my content for years and years and years to come in the studio, we wanted to put as much money into it as was necessary. But it was a lot.
So how much total was it?
So we ordered, I would say, about a third
Not
of what we
done.
needed at first.
We still need
About
more.
500, and then we realized we had like a third of what we needed. We spent about 1,500.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's a good estimate. And that's on the one room. We also kind of thought we were going to get 2 rooms out of it, but we wound up doing grass wall.
We thought we were gonna have extra.
Yeah, we thought we were going to have extra.
And we had like a third of what we needed. It was crazy.
Yeah, if you have any home improvement skills whatsoever, that'll put you a leg above us because we learned through this process that's not our forte.
But I will say y'all did it the right way. I mean, if you again my studio and everything, building it from scratch and everything, it was, I mean, it was a lot of me attempting to do everything, and honestly, the cheaper way possible, and saying, okay, I'm just gonna figure it out. I just need to get it up and running for right now. So like if you look like behind like Brody's head right now, I'm literally looking at like crevices like in the walls where you can see things. Sharpie. And yeah, Sharpie. I mean, if you look over here, I attempted to put wallpaper up of a brick wall, and now it's completely covered with a whole separate background because the brick wall was like slanted by the time I put the wallpaper up. So so the fact that y'all are just, okay, let's just do it the right way once, honestly probably saved y'all in the end, because like I've already probably gotten rid of half of the first like furniture purchases that I made.
Really?
Yeah, so like, okay, like this table right next to us right here, that's the second table I bought. So yeah, the first one, it was like a very cheap, it was like $100 table.
Yeah.
I bought another different thing for out there that was like $100 thing, and it basically was all broken by the time it got here. And so I probably lost like minimum probably $500 or $600 trying to do it the cheaper way.
Right.
So, and in the end, it's kind of like, all right, well, I just,
more expensive.
I still ended up, paying the couple $100s for like nice couches out there and everything anyways. So
when I was growing up, my dad used to furnish all kinds of buildings like this and studios and hospitals and different things like that. And then one piece of advice that he really gave me, he's like, do not get cheap furniture out the gate. If you're trying to build a place to last, if you're going to have strangers on it who aren't going to take the same care as you, who are going to jump on it and put pressure and everything in that, you want to get the highest quality possible. You want to be able to last through not even like this studio and this space, but to be able to use for other projects as we move forward. So I think also watching you do that and watching you like make these trial and errors, that should be stated.
Like awesome.
Andy started opening his studio months before Brody and I did. And when he started opening his studio, when you started opening your studio, we had kind of been like, you'd been in almost like the honeymoon phase of the studio, right? You had just moved in here. You hadn't really got all the stuff on the walls yet. And we were like, oh, this space is so cool and awesome. We should do it too, Brody. And then as we're like looking into it and, signing paperwork and getting LLCs and stuff, we start seeing you like trying to stick things to walls. And it's falling off. And we're building stuff in the back room and it's crashing off the table. And it's just like, oh, man, what we get ourselves into. So getting to learn from what you did really made a big difference for us.
I'm happy y'all could learn from my mistakes.
Thanks, Andy.
He's like, thank you so much for letting me be the guinea pig.
And we appreciate it. We do.
I am happy to be the guinea pig whenever y'all need. I feel like I'm the guinea pig in a lot of situations. So, I'm all for it. But
hey, I feel like half of Jacksonville's in your studio each week now, though. So that works.
I don't know about
I don't know about that.
I don't know. It's starting to pick up, which is good.
That's a good segue to kind of get into what's been going on since we last talked.
Oh,
the podcast.
Okay.
So to pick up where we left off, we were pretty early in the year when we first talked. You were one of the first ones.
I think I was the second. You were the second one?
Fourth, I think.
Fourth.
You were the fourth. We might have recorded it second, but I'm pretty sure it's episode 4.
I know we shot 3 podcasts before it.
Yeah.
Because
we were like all over the place. I think we shot 2 outside of the studio, but then you had the studio ready.
Yeah, so we were like, well, might as well just reshoot everything once more. So,
Yeah. And if you have not seen that podcast, check it out right there on the link.
Was Profession Session episode 1 the first podcast released out of the studio for anyone?
I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
That's important.
I think so.
That's an important piece of history.
And if you haven't seen that one, you can find it at the link right there.
See how we did that?
Yeah. But where we kind of left off with Andy in episode 4 was we were earlier in the year. You have some history to your company, but you've kind of like evolved each year, in my opinion, just like kind of changed your business model a little bit. And you had changed your business model at the beginning of this year to more of a kind of full content management service. And in my opinion, it's been going really, really well for you.
It's definitely building. Mm-hmm. We're learning each month. This was a complete new scheme of everything at the start of the year. It was very new to me, very new to kind of the people that were kind of helping me with everything. There were definitely some learning curves. It wasn't until, honestly, I hate to say it, it wasn't until probably a month ago to where things really started clicking.
Yeah.
Things really started moving around, saying, okay, doing these steps, grow an Instagram, grow a profile. And I really hate to say it, but like along the way, we retained a lot of people and we lost a couple people, and it was because we were learning, and you have to go through those learning pains, saying, okay, we can't do it this way, we can't do it this way. The entire time you're trying to keep clients as happy as possible.
While trying
as we
to
build
find new clients.
while trying to find new clients and figuring out kind of the system. We saw there was a gap in the market, and we've kind of gone for it. So far, it's gone pretty well. I'm really excited about these next couple months, because now I feel like we've really like we have a very, very good system, saying, okay, shooting the content, editing the content, turning them to reels, turning them to TikToks, and watching it translate into followers.
Could you talk a little bit about some of those specific variables, maybe like some of the specific things that you've learned that work? Because you mentioned you've kind of learned what grows a profile. What does that look like in your average example of a client that's working well right now?
So a basic one is just how you're going to be editing the reels now. You have to think that right now, humanity's attention span is the shortest it has ever been. If you go on, everybody at home, go on to your Instagram or TikTok and count how long your reels are now. At the very beginning of it was what, 60 seconds? Turn it on right now, I guarantee 4 out of the 5 ones aren't going to surpass probably 10.
4 to 7 seconds.
4 to 7 seconds. I mean, all the trending sounds now are sitting at about 9. They're sitting at about 9 seconds, all the trending sounds. So that's the big thing, is honestly, it's figuring out a way to get right to the point and providing the most value as possible. The second thing is honestly using text. That's the big thing, is to when like when you're in school, the best way to learn is by listening and reading at the same time. It helps with your brain function, and it's translated to TikToks and Reels. So now when you're watching everything, that's why you're seeing any of these entrepreneurs, investment people, they have those text boxes that are coming, popping up and everything, and usually the yellow text, which psychologically, the yellow text is blue. Okay, baby blue.
Blue,
Yeah. So you have
it's just a branding thing.
So you have the baby blue, you have yellow, and pink is another big one that pops out pretty good. Shout out to a CEO of golf that I've been doing some of his stuff for, because
I love that content.
He put me on to the pink one. I knew about blue and yellow, and then when I saw the pink, I was like, okay, that really pops out right now.
He's got kind of like a Miami Vice color scheme going on. It works really well.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and don't know what kind of captions we're talking about, you should definitely click into it. I think pretty much everyone that's growing on social medias right now is using this caption style that I can find. Yeah, it's pretty universal.
There's some variants in the actual caption style, but I would say the commonalities are just finding like a consistent branding that works for it, and then just having like subtitles for the entire video. I mean, you really have to be engaged the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one that people aren't using yet, that if anybody's watching might want to hop on this trend, is actually using, I mean, you obviously already use it right now, is cutting out the space in between words. So that's one. Cutting out the space in between words to make it, as succinct as possible. But here's another one. Every time that you're cutting those words out and everything, actually cropping it inside and outside. So cutting in, cutting out. Yeah, so it's cutting in, cutting out. Obviously, okay, go watch a Mr. Beast video.
Alex
Hormozy. Yeah, Alex Hormozy. He's another one, to where now they're doing this cut in, cut out. So now your brain is continuously seeing something different.
Yeah, I've been thinking about switching to that. It's probably a pretty simple tweak, and there's something about it where you're just like, it just keeps you engaged.
Yeah, it keeps you moving, and I think it's just going to continue to develop to where probably next month there's going to be something new that's going to come out. Trending sounds are huge right now. If you can get onto the trending sounds of Instagram, actually Instagram is always about 2 weeks behind TikTok.
At least.
Do you
That's
have
one
any
thing to
good
know.
strategies for keeping up with those for someone who's a little busy?
So
We've talked about this.
I think we've talked about this too.
I know. So I hate to say it. I do the. So I came up with this one little like business idea to
Concept.
Yeah, it was a concept. It was the one of the 50 new ideas that I'll come up for the week, and I'll like text both of you, be like, hey, what do you think about this? To where basically finding all the trending sounds and sending out like a text link or something like that saying, hey, here's basically the top 10 trending sounds like for the week.
Yeah.
Very simple, because they're honestly, like you just asked the question, there really isn't. You have influencers that are saying, hey, here's the trending sound that's like popping off and everything.
But you've got to be following them around, keeping track of all these people, and just hoping that like you're catching their stuff early enough. Sometimes you're catching their stuff a couple weeks down the road, and
You'll find a sound on one Instagram account that's great for a different Instagram account, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to screenshot this to remember it. Go to the other account and search the sound. There's no way I can save it and check on my other profile or just see it in trending. It's like very difficult, actually. Instagram, you heard us. We need it.
Yeah, so TikTok, you got the trending sounds. Instagram, nothing.
yeah, it's really hard to find on Instagram. It's just not as robust.
TikTok's also a better social media platform. Hot take. You're getting way more engagement right now on TikTok from accounts that have low numbers of followers, or maybe like if your friends and family aren't generally engaging with your content. I find I can start a channel on TikTok and get a community around me in 2 weeks, the size of what would take me 2 months on Instagram.
So break down how. So you kind of started doing like the solar panel TikToks and everything.
Yeah, I got like
keeping up with it. How's
I got
that
4
going?
TikToks now. I got way too many TikToks, but specifically with the solar ones, probably the one I enjoy talking about most. So I got kind of tapped on the shoulder at work to do some social media content that related to solar panels and what we do as a company and the benefits of working in the solar industry. And they just had me record basic TikTok style content where I talked about what we do, why we do it, what are the benefits of being hired, how much money you can make in solar, how much money you can save by going solar, and just different videos for different types of audiences, because they were looking for this TikTok style content that they wanted to post as a company that they really couldn't get on any corporate level. It was hard for them to just, like, I've seen the other videos they did with some other employees, and they're very I don't want to say staged, but they're very inorganic. That's what they feel like. When I kind of did mine, I literally just pull out my phone kind of while I'm walking and record exactly how I'm feeling and talking. And the reason I'm able to do that is because I've been posting on TikTok and social medias and doing podcasts like this for so long, it comes across very naturally to me. But I'm finding that it's very, very hard for a corporate style company to put out that comfortable feeling content unless they have someone who does it, I don't want to say necessarily for a living, but as a passion, does it all the time. So I was doing that for them and everything. I think really what they were looking for out of me was just more organic, less corporate videos, which I think perform on TikTok, Reels, for Instagram and YouTube, and a lot of different places better. So I'm finding you really can't be in a business and try to move towards social media and then be good at it. I see people, especially in solar, try that all the time. They're similar to me, and they come to social media and try to make solar style videos, but they've never worked in a social media field before. They're terrible and they don't perform and they give up very quickly. But I find if someone who already is on social media starts promoting a product, or someone who's already very good with social media starts backing a product, it blows up. So I think the trick is that companies need to start looking for people who are natively social media people, instead of necessarily trying to find people in their company that maybe aren't necessarily inclined toward that.
They'll be like, you're on Facebook all day. Here, you start a TikTok.
You're 25 years old.
20, you could do it.
You must understand what TikTok lighting and sound and captions and hashtags are.
I would say there's a caveat to this, because like you guys are saying, you don't just want someone that's on social media, you want someone that's making content.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people are just consuming social media. Kind of gives you an idea of like what's going on, but it doesn't really give you any idea of what's working.
Do any of y'all sorry, what were you saying? Okay. Do any of y'all watch Ryan Pineda? Do
Little
any
bit,
you
yeah.
know who
Little bit,
that is?
absolutely.
So he switched up his the way that he's doing all of his content now. He started the podcast, but he's been pretty open about how I used to, do the how tos. Okay, how to make $10,000 over the next X amount of days, or these 3 habits. Maybe you know the videos I'm talking
Right.
about. Well, he basically switched everything around in probably the past month and a half, to where essentially it's a very Gary V style type thing, to where they're just following him around with a camera, and he's still talking about everything, but it's much less it's
Staged.
much less
Documentary
staged.
style.
Yeah, it's much more documentary style. Another person to do it is Ryan Serhan, I believe that's how you say his last name.
Oh, I've heard of
the
that.
the real estate guy with
Casey Neistat would be my example.
yeah, Casey Neistat. He's before everything, but so Ryan Serhan, he is the one to where he'll do all the real estate, like house tours and everything.
Right.
And he noticed that he was like, whenever we do this full big production and everything, the engagement would be super down, versus when I would literally go in here with like my own little videographer and we just start walking around and everything. That gets much more engagement, because it feels like you're kind of just walking along with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like they're actually doing the thing and not telling you conceptually how one might do it. And that just comes off, in my opinion, as just more trustworthy, more legitimate, just at first glance. Because another example is Grant Cardone. Every single video I see of his, he's just like walking around a parking lot.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm touring a house right now. Like, I just toured 10.
Buying apartments.
Yeah.
40 buildings in this apartment. It's going to make me $24 gajillion. You guys need to get on it. Grant Cardone University.
Yeah,
Something like that.
See them out in the field, and like they're doing the actual thing that they're talking about. And the funny thing is, it's easier to make content that way too.
So at what point does it become too much? Because you have
Like too organic.
well, not necessarily too organic, but to where I'm talking about like a Grant Cardone, to where people are just like, I don't like him because he's a fake. What is the difference between someone that knows what they're talking about versus a fake guru per se?
I mean, it's kind of just something that you notice inherently, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
it comes with the person. It's about being genuine and honest. It's just that simple. And I mean, it's everyone's taste and opinion is different on people. Personalities are going to clash, but I feel like in a sense, I don't like Grant Cardone for his personality just because I don't mess with his personality. But I definitely, if I'm going to buy a set of apartments, going to listen to everything Grant Cardone's ever put out before I do so. Or where I'm listening to Gary V, I may be doing that for more energy and pump up and thing of that nature. So I think each of them have their categories where they're good and they're bad. And if you double down on the category that you're really, really good at, then that's okay. But if you get outside of your category and start getting out of your wheelhouse, then you just start talking about stuff you don't know much about. And I think that's where they get their problems.
That's what I'm always scared of, because like people will be like, Andy, you need to make a course on how to like become a photographer and everything like that. And I'm like, no, like I don't want to be viewed as a fake. Someone that's like faking
You've
it.
done it though.
Yeah,
But I don't think
it.
that I haven't gotten there yet. Essentially, that's kind of my view.
Your
on it.
imposter syndrome showing, Andy. You definitely have. We're in your studio right now.
I think there's certain things. I think you could do it in a way that would keep you in your wheelhouse without saying. I mean, like you.
This is what I've learned.
You
Not
don't want
this
to
is
come
the
out
only
and
way.
say I have a multi-billion-dollar agency doing content management. You just want to
Yeah,
say
there we
I'm
go.
a guy that started in photography, went to videography, and then went to content management, and I have a studio that I built this year and have a base of a few clients a month that are keeping us in the studio, that have helped us get a couple people helping me out and doing some of the editing. Just talk about what you actually do.
Yeah. I'll be real. I'm actually really tired of listening to gurus above the $1 million mark. I don't really need to know what to do $1 million or above, and 99.999% of people are just like that. I need to know what to do from $1,000 to $2,000 a paycheck all the way up to quitting my job and getting to do it full time. And that's what you have 100% done that I think is the more valuable content. I don't care what millionaires are doing in these categories because that doesn't really pertain to me. That's why they're all giving rah-rah, because they could break down the numbers and stuff for you, but it doesn't affect you. If you're like, okay, I pay myself X number of dollars a week. I budget $1,000 every month toward upgrades and things of that nature. Those are numbers that are more reasonable to the people that I think are Googling, how do I become a photographer? Does that make sense?
It appeals to a more realistic, wider audience, probably. I mean, I think there's a lot of fatigue kind of on a mass scale with a lot of these gurus. I'm getting it too. Like I find myself switching around to a lot of different content producers just because I'm looking for specific types of information.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ones that I find myself going back to more consistently are really just the entertainment ones. Like I'd follow a lot of entertainment stuff just to kind of help inspire me on little aspects I could add to the show, because I want it to be entertaining and educational. But the things I go back to are really the entertainment ones. The ones that I'd kind of hop around to are the guru ones. Like you get fatigued quickly with someone who's kind of a guru unless they really know what they're talking about.
And I would say on your podcast, because it has a natural professional leaning, it's a lot of times very high level topics, difficult topics that not a lot of people might understand depending on who's listening. I think looking around for content that's entertaining and trying to make, the professional Thai podcast more entertaining is something that it makes sense for that podcast. But then I feel like in my content, I'm almost in the opposite, where I'm looking for how to make it more professional and clean. I get the idea of, TikToks that are relatable, right? But I don't get the idea of the consistent, perfect videos every time. So sometimes I'm looking for just like the Andy style advice, where it'd be like, hey, I need to know, how do I do my lighting to make my face look a little bit better? Not how do I talk to be more entertaining? And I feel like that's just different needs for our content. I think that's cool. I think you can look at different creators for that, and that's kind of the beauty of social media. So you, in your case, being informative and giving the advice for, hey, this isn't the only way to do it, but this is the way I've been able to take it from A to B to C to D, even for me would be valuable. So I know it would be valuable for others.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just talking to you about all this stuff has provided tons of value to both of us.
I mean, we haven't literally opened a studio off your advice or anything, but
I was really hoping y'all were going to be like, no, it's a terrible idea.
It was a terrible idea. What'd
really...
you get us into, Andy? I'm poor now. You didn't let me know. You said I was going to make money.
So he tried to stop us.
I tried to stop you. It's like, have y'all heard like the Kevin Hart joke? And he was like, I'm the only one that like buys like dumb things like clothes and everything like that. I'm like, well, where's all your money? He's like, it's right here. Yeah, that's how it is. I'm like, well, where's all the income from the company? Right here,
right here, all right back into it, right where it needs to be, making the studio
right in that camera right there.
I think that's really smart, though. I mean, you've been able to continuously grow the company because you reinvest back into it. You've always, every time someone comes in here, there's something new, and that shows very visually that the company is always growing. And I think people want to be involved with companies and brands that they feel will grow with them. I have that feeling, at least. So buying into a brand or a company or deciding to work with a company, I think a lot of times you do that with companies that you think will continue to grow and continue to flourish as you continue working with them.
I can't imagine a situation where Varnes Media, with how well you're making connections locally, is not going to be here in years to come to be able to provide more photography. And I think other people see that too. It's like, he doesn't just do sports photography. He just doesn't do portrait photography. He doesn't just do this or that. You kind of encompass a very large group of people, especially here in Duval. I don't see any situation where this place disappears soon. And I think other people feel that energy from everything you've done here.
I mean, I think, honestly, I'm really happy that I was able to be in Jacksonville. I think it's such a emerging city. I think there's so many markets that can, people can really just take over.
It's a very entrepreneurial city.
It's really become, it's definitely not in Orlando or Miami or anything like that. But I think that it helps it because it keeps from a lot of the outside money kind of coming in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. And I think it's not in Orlando or Miami, but I think it does have, at least in my experience here, there's there's kind of entrepreneurship in all big cities, but there's a pretty unique kind of brand of it in Jacksonville that I think you've tapped into really well with your company.
I think it's much more of a blue collar, almost
It
entrepreneurial
is.
type.
That's a good way of putting it.
Jacksonville's kind of like the new Chicago in a way.
Explain.
Lots of business, lots of blue collar work, lots of warehouse and factories, lots of chances for people to come up. But it's not like it's been compared on the podcast before that. What was it? Orlando's.
That a clip, by the way. It would get huge just from people hating.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
People would go. Chicagoans would be rioting in the
Chicagoans? Are they Chicagoans? Is that correct?
I don't know.
Oh, you better hope so. But no, if Miami and Orlando are kind of closer to, what was it compared to? Las Vegas and Manhattan. Then I would say Jacksonville, that's a comparison of something like Chicago. You know what I mean? There's a lot of blue collar work there. There's a lot of factories, warehouse, business opportunity, but it's not the classic Silicon Valley style business opportunity
there
that
aren't
you're
any.
used to.
There's no tech.
No, there's no tech.
companies
There's no
coming in.
tech.
It's a lot of just good, like you
This
said,
is the
blue
tech
collar.
hub.
It's a lot of good,
Yeah.
modest.
That's why I've done so well. There's no tech.
Yeah, there's no tech. You got the niche, right? Exactly.
Yeah. That's the gap in the market right there. That's a good point.
There's honestly a lot of what. All right, so gaps in the market. What if we hit on that a little bit?
I like
In
that.
Jacksonville specifically?
No, I say just get like side business opportunities. Jacksonville. A lot of our audience could be people. So
Right.
I'll
But
start. I'll go ahead and start. We need a really good T-shirt printing place here. That is one thing we need.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't know where to go for one. I have someone that does it outside of the city that helps me with it, but no, there's not really a good one that I know of.
So you got that, but like you need like the act like, and there's a lot of people that are doing like the more heat press stuff with the Cricut, but like someone that can actually, like if someone wants to invest like $2,500 and get yourself a screen printer and everything to where you can actually do all the stuff, I guarantee you'll have that money back in like a month.
Yeah.
The biggest thing we're missing here in Jacksonville is any tech whatsoever. Independent tech creators are probably the biggest opportunity in Jacksonville. If you can make an app for $3,000 to $4,000, a simple one, Varnes Media app that doesn't require to be linked through a website or use any like www link, I think people would pay a ridiculous amount here in Jacksonville. I don't think there are people who are tech enough to be able to do it with someone remote. So I feel like there's a lot of businesses in Jacksonville where if I walked into them, took all the pictures, did all the media for it, came out, built the app for them tech-wise and gave them to them, they pay me plenty of money and it'd be valuable. I don't think there's all, because it's a little bit of an older population that owns a lot of the businesses here in some cases, or maybe at least a less tech-savvy population, they're not going to be able to hire another company, give them the correct information, the correct photos, the correct metrics, the correct everything for them to be able to launch an app or something like that. And I think pretty much, even amongst us, who I would say are some of the most tech savvy people, none of us are even looking into that right now. We all know the value.
So it's funny you mentioned that. Sean, my roommate, there's a company out of Ponte Vedra that is what they're doing right now.
Go Sean.
But they're doing it with country clubs.
That's a great place to start. That's
And
exactly kind of the thing I'm talking
So
about.
Sean is traveling around the country now on these different business trips, building apps for these kind of high-end country clubs. It's really, really cool. It's a really cool company.
When did Sean start doing this?
Sean's coming on the podcast.
I didn't know about this. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Is that recent?
He graduated at the basically the start of summer. He's probably been doing it for like 3 months now.
That's awesome.
Something like that. Yeah. He's crushing it, living the.
There's always revenue
Living
to
the
be
dream.
made and things people don't understand. And I really don't think people understand the apps and the value that they provide yet. Or at least I think they understand them conceptually, just not how to do them. So if you can go out there and you can give apps to country clubs, I mean the budget that a country club has for marketing and advertisement that they don't get to spend on anything, or not even marketing and advertising, just improving the lives and well-being of your members for being able to see schedules in an app and things like that nature. I couldn't
Building
believe.
proprietary software
Right.
in general. Yeah.
Right, exactly. That's what
If you
Jacksonville's
know how to
missing.
code.
Yeah.
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 Half of them you barely need to know how to code. I'm telling you, there needs to be. It's like you say, you can start a business that does it without knowing how to code, then hire someone that knows how to code. I say that especially in software. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Software is almost 100. you can hire coders, right? So the biggest
that's
difficulty.
What I was gonna say. You can find a great coder on like Fiverr, Upwork, one of those type things, and they're well reviewed. They work remotely. You just hop on a Zoom call with them. If you're good at just if you're design oriented and you're good at expanding on your ideas, you can kind of explain these things to these coders or these design experts that you can find on Fiverr, Upwork, etc., and get them to actually build these things out. And you don't have to have that coding experience. You can kind of focus on the sales and the business building of it. That's a great point. Another gap, I would say, this is something I would love to be able to execute on, but I've been busy with everything else I'm doing, is so some kind of smaller form of the kind of big digital kiosks that you see in something like a mall. I think there's a business to be had in selling little versions of that in things like, and I can't take full credit to this idea. This was something I kind of collaboratively came up with an idea I had and a friend of mine, but is just like selling like a small digital advertising piece in something like a doctor's office, a spa, something like that, and then having local businesses advertise on it. I think that could do really well.
That's reasonable. I definitely see that reoccurring money.
Yeah, I think it could do well really anywhere, and you just charge like a subscription fee for it.
I'm very deep on the belief as far as if I'm starting anything business wise right now, I'm very big on the belief that the more expensive the thing I'm selling is, the more money I make per sell, whether that's to a client as a service or whether it's a product. And so and the only exception to that, I think, is something like what you're talking about, where it's that reoccurring payments, like the vending machine rule, right? As you keep money keeps coming in, and then you collect that money once it's already been installed. So I think that's really interesting. I want work with no maintenance, so I never want to have to go sell whenever I go have to put these out again. Once they're up, they kind of stay there and they just keep making you money. The business job is to find people to advertise on them. And I think that the fact it can reoccur like that makes it very valuable for sure.
You sell it once and then you just, you lock in some advertisers, and if it's going well and they're seeing any kind of conversions, I think you build in some kind of way to actually track back to that. So you have the companies that are advertising they ask their customers that are coming in, where did you hear about us? And if they heard about them through one of these little digital kiosk things, that's direct attribution. And then you can use that to kind of sell it going forward.
That's definitely my biggest, I'm not going to say regret, but that's when somebody asks, like, okay, if you weren't going to do Varnes Media, to where basically we're having to create brand new content every single week, literally every single day, we're having to figure out, okay, what can we do differently? I was like, I would much rather of figuring out like a product where it just has really good margins. You find it you buy it for X amount, you're selling it for X amount. That's why, I think that's why drop shipping was so hot for that probably 2 years stint, to where that's, you made everything, you bought it for $3 over in China, you paid $100 for marketing, and you sold it for
Alibaba days.
for $15 over here, and just cashed out.
And then Amazon just took it over.
It did.
Now Amazon FBA it's an easier option.
Well, that's the advantage of something like a software sales. You're selling the concept of an app, not a literal product that Amazon can recreate. So there's like a marriage of service and product there that I really, really like, where it's like, hey, this is a product. You understand the value of it. You understand the margins on it for us and for you. You understand it's a high dollar product, but at the same time, it has the value of a service, which is no one else can do it like I can do it.
Yeah.
And I think there's value in that.
And the high level of design and specificity in it. You go into a potential business that you're selling to, you figure out exactly their needs for a software and build it out exactly as they need it, because they've probably tried a million different CRMs and have something that's doing a decent job for them. But if you can build them something that's perfect for them and has exactly what they need, then all of a sudden it's a different story.
Right, exactly, and you can get paid really well for it. So that's the big advantage.
One other little very specific gap that you made me think of with the vending machine thing There's something you've seen them. I don't know if you've seen them when you've been there, but the mystery vending machines in Orlando.
No.
I have not seen them in Jacksonville, and maybe they have plans to expand here. But if you go into nearly any Orlando bar now, some restaurants too, there's these things called mystery vending machines.
They're great.
And it's a bunch of little just packages, and they'll have some name like adult coloring book or something like that. A lot of it's all very like adult based because it's in bars.
Yeah.
So it'll be like adult coloring book or like dirty dice or like some funny game or something, and you pay. I mean, the margins on it are probably incredible. I don't know how much it costs to make this stuff. Probably pretty cheap.
Super cheap.
You buy it for like $7 or $8, sometimes even $10 per thing.
Mm-hmm.
You just swipe your credit card. They're all credit card accessible.
Wow.
They sell a lot of this stuff. I mean, Devin, the first time you were visiting and you saw it, you and Colin bought like 30 things out of it.
Oh, must have.
There's just such a
So
novelty
what
to it.
was in it?
Like
kinds of
a little old 90s toys, like little men you throw and would fall in the parachute, and finger traps. And it really is advertised to people who are too shy to buy their sex toys in a store. So they want to do it at the bar in a vending machine instead.
And they're just gonna.
It's more fun if you have to guess what you get.
Yeah, I may have got the dirty dice.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's a mess of stuff. But it's the concept is just to get a drunk person to come over and pull the lever as much as anything. So it could be anything.
Yeah, I mean
it's a
nice little like talking piece. Like everything in there is a nice little talking piece if you're just with your friends at the bar.
Well, think about the dopamine hit you also get too. You know, the slot machine thing. You're like, oh, what am I gonna get? What am I gonna get?
Right. There's a gambling aspect. I got you game aspect. That's what it's called.
Another great example that they have in there is there's Florida Man packets.
So that's cool.
Florida Man packet, and it's a mystery Florida Man thing. Every single one of them comes with a unique Florida Man story. If you're not familiar with the whole Florida Man thing,
you are.
You probably are, but if you're not from Florida or if you're just somehow are living under a rock and have not heard of this, look up your birthday, Florida Man. There's some crazy news story. But there's these little Florida Man packets in them where it's like some story that they picked out, and they put a little prop in there to represent it. Like there was some guy that like shot an RPG at someone or something.
Ooh.
I don't think he hit them, luckily. But he like shot an RPG at someone, so there was like a little like rocket gun in there, like a little squirter gun or something. And then it's got like a well printed, colorful storytelling. Just little like unique pieces it's like a fun story to tell at the bar.
My favorite Florida Man story is the one that just came out about how he's now in prison for like killing a chicken, like his neighbor's chicken. Have y'all seen that yet?
I have not.
It happened here, like in Jacksonville.
Oh, really?
Chicken murder.
Did you see the dude who stabbed someone with his feet?
What?
It was on Barstool Sports because they had interviewed this guy in the past. So they walk out the pizza restaurant, eat the pizza or whatever. Well, some guy with a suitcase tied with a rope to his nub. He's missing both arms. He's obviously like on crack, very obviously on crack. He looks at Dave Portnoy, whoever the Barstool Sports guy is, and is like, "You should give that pizza to a crack addict." And this is a video from like years ago. And then like 2 weeks ago, so he has no arms in the video. And 2 weeks ago, he got arrested for stabbing someone with his feet with a pair of scissors. And they did a whole piece on our Barstool Sports where they like did a flashback to meeting the guy. It's hilarious. I have a curious little segment for you guys, actually, that I saw on a different podcast recently. So, secret projects. Do either of you have anything that you're working on right now that you haven't made public, that isn't all over your social media, that's in the background of either Varnes Media or Chef on the Fly or anything like that nature, that maybe you haven't got enough to launch or put out yet, but that you're working on? Either of you got anything like that right now?
I do not. I'm too busy, but it sounds like you do.
I don't have anything terrible.
I sadly have two things.
Okay, let's go. I got Andy. We'll start with Andy. I might have something.
Here we go.
Well, the one it's already out, and it's the Athlete Day kind of.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
That's a good one. See, Andy always has something.
You should talk a little bit about Athlete Day because this is you're starting to promote it now.
Yeah, it's just now kind of starting to be promoted, literally in the last month. Basically what Athlete Day. So if anybody doesn't know anything about me, I got started doing sports videography, photography. I would sneak out to football games and take pictures of the players, and I would literally sell them for like $1 to like $5 a piece. Most of the time, it was literally I sold them for $1. And, and that was, I'd come out hoping I made like $20 out of the game, and that'd pay for my dinner. So I obviously had to merge. I love sports, but I had to merge out of sports because the money just isn't there unless you want to get in-house with somebody. So you're working with a sports team or something like that, to where you have something consistent.
A sports team with money to
Yeah, a sports team with money.
Yeah.
Which even with that, you're honestly, I hate to say it, you're kind of underpaid with the value you're bringing. Because think about it, I mean, how fun is it to work for for a sports team? Like, I would love to do that. Like, work for Florida, or a school to work with the Jaguars. A professional sports team. Like, it's such a competitive industry. So I was like, okay, well,
by clicking
I was like,
here to watch Devin Carvajal's interview.
see. Love Devin. Shout out to Devin.
Shout out to other Devin.
Yeah. Shout out to other Devin. Yeah. See, there we go. But I had to merge out of sports, and I always loved sports. I mean, I would still go to shoot, football games. And I'd still try to get into a Jags game here and there and everything.
You did shoot Jags games for a while.
Yeah. But now it's kind of like, okay, what's a way that we can kind of stay in sports and hopefully, honestly, make an income out of it? And now it's Athlete Day. So I kind of came up with this concept of saying, okay, we brought in a couple players in, and we kind of did some photo shoots back there in the studio, and we brought out the smoke and, and did some really, really cool shots.
It came out fantastic.
Yeah, came just really, really cool stuff. And it honestly merged from, I was seeing all the NIL deals that are going on, and these schools, when these players are going on recruiting visits, I mean, they are throwing everything at them. I mean, the photo shoots that they're doing. If you want to look at like Texas A&M, they had this cool like photo setup and everything. When we went to LSU, they did a whole photo shoot for Birch Sports out of LSU when we went out there. They were like, I think, they were freshmen, and so they were already just like getting shots of them with LSU gear on and everything. I was like, this is really, really cool. I wish every high school player got to experience something like this. So I was like, okay, what's a way we can do that? So I was like, okay, what if we do this thing called Athlete Day, to where the players either come to us or we go to them, and we bring the backdrops and we bring the smoke and we bring all the strobe lights, and we make something they're not going to forget. So we take so for $30 they come to us. We will pay, we will basically take care of everything. It's a one-time fee of $30 per player, and so that it kind of makes it good on our part. And then they get everything for that $30. It's a one-time thing. So that's kind of the thing that I've been kind of working on. And the content we've been doing, it's looked really, really cool. So far in Jacksonville, we've been getting different teams and different sports. The big thing is getting different sports. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of the big thing that I've been kind of working on. Mm-hmm.
Another thing I was going to say about Athlete Day that I think is important is just now that players in college are allowed to make money off their likeness, for any high school player in any sport that plans to hopefully have a career in college, I mean, you should probably be starting to build your brand in high school.
Absolutely.
And so if you can get some supporting media for that really sets you apart from your peers early, it just lends more credence to you being able to showcase and curate a brand. There's a lot more value in that now.
So if you want to hop on for Athlete Day, shoot me a DM. And there we go. There's my
click the link in the description.
There you go. Sponsored by. There we go. Yeah. But the other one that I've worked on, and it's kind of stayed on the back burner for honestly almost probably a year and a half at this point, is I've told you about it once, and I might have told you about it, but it's the Legacy series.
Yes. Yeah.
So
you want to talk about that?
So yeah, all right. This is my see. Nobody can steal this idea because this is in my back pocket.
I think you've told me this.
I told you. Okay, yeah, you might not have heard this, but a couple years ago, I was still in college. I got this random idea. My grandparents have this amazing story. They they have this really cool story. They ran away, got married when they were like 16 and 17, and then lived like I don't know, they're like 80. Oh gosh, I'm a terrible person. I have no idea. They're 85,
Ancient.
something like. Yeah, there we go.
Ancient.
Yeah, so
You are Varnes' grandparents.
they're probably gonna watch this.
Your dad doesn't even have an Instagram.
The important thing.
Papa does though.
The important thing. He does. The important thing. Is
Sorry, Papa.
Killing it.
Hey, they're doing great. They're doing great. But anyways, I was like, all right, I want to make a video for them, kind of telling their story. They have a really cool story, so that's what kind of we did. And then showed it to my parents, showed it to our family. They were like, this is this is great. And I'm like, this is awesome. I'm gonna really really cherish this, especially in 10 years to when they're gone and I can still hear their voices and everything and hear them talking to everything. So I was like, okay, what if we create something to where you kind of get to create that for families. So you come in and you sit down with their grandparents or parents or whoever they want to capture that, and they tell their story. They either give their kind of and like an hour long kind of like documentary of their life, or what I think is really cool is something that I'd call the Time Capsule, where they would break down specific points in a person's life and give it to them. So like it would be something like you could do like record your dad to give to your future son. So like say, okay, here's this is from your grandpa, and he watches this and he said, okay, watch this on your 13th birthday, watch this on your 16th birthday when you get a car, watch this on your watch this when you get married, watch this when you have your first kid, watch this when you have your first grandkid. Like imagine being a grandparent and waiting years and years and years to watch something that you've never seen of your grandfather, saying, oh, I remember when I had you as a grandkid. And that's a pretty powerful thing. You can get advice from from somebody for your entire life.
Somebody with your genes and that has been through life as similarly to you biologically.
Yeah, I mean,
there's no other way to get that.
Yeah, I mean, so that's kind of my two ideas. So it's
I
definitely
think there's a good market out there for it. I think it's just about implementing it. I think you could really strike gold.
The Time Capsule is brilliant. That's one of the best ideas you've ever come out with, and I really do believe that like that works for all different types of people. Because imagine if even if I was a client and I had recorded myself for my future children at 26 years old, right? Imagine if you were getting married and you got to talk to your dad when he was your age, the day you got married, like it's him, but he's 26 and he's like, oh, hey. That would blow my mind. You could do that throughout people's lives. There's massive, and especially I think a lot of people, there's a concept that I saw a big influencer talk about where it's like 4 or 5 generations out, you don't know your your great grandparents' name. I actually recently did a big Ancestry.com search, so I'm a little more versed in that than most people with my family, but you probably don't know your 5th grandfather's out name on your father's side. That's even though that's your family lineage, you don't know that. So legacy is something that's very hard to come by, where no matter how wealthy you are or how well you do off your family, most of the time 4 or 5 generations down, no one's gonna have any idea who you are. If we're talking about holes in markets. Well, there's a hole for how do we immortalize people, not only as like financially or just as a memory or with the family they leave behind, but their personalities and their advice and everything of that nature, stories that you're never going to be able to get back. And that's a way to do that in a way that I think feels honoring and comfortable, and I think people would pay a lot of money for, honestly.
See so that's my two big thing is figuring out, okay, price point and technology.
Yeah.
Package options.
Well, think about it 10 years. What if I was to put it on a CD? Well, all of a sudden, that person watches it 60 years later. See, there's probably going to be no CD players around.
I think the biggest thing would just be having it on the cloud, like having it on
a website that holds them,
and just hope that
just a YouTube channel. I mean, YouTube's not going away anytime.
You can make a website. I know how super easily how to build a website where you could upload the video and people only have access to certain parts through passwords. So that's you lock each page of a website. You can do it with
Squarespace,
right? Exactly. And there's ways that you can do it.
Who's going to pay for that subscription?
You are, but you're going to pay for it with all the different payments that you've been uploading these pages for, and then their ancestors can come out with that.
What about it? 60 years and I'm dead, someone's got to still keep paying those payments.
I think the key is the one-time payment, and you give them the source file, and you upload it to the cloud, and you make the piece like you were looking into before, where it's uploaded to this little book that they can open and watch it. And I mean, if they lose that book, that's on them, but it's always going to be on the cloud. They're always going to have the file,
the original files. That's the trick. Your website should be an experience portal that they can go through if they would like to handle it in that way, because it's kind of cool to do it on the date, your wedding, whatever. There's passwords that he set, when he recorded the videos. Or if you just want the raw files there for when you need them, the raw files are there. Save them to your family drive, upload them to Ancestry, whatever.
You get the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a bonus that it comes with the physical piece.
That's the packages kind of thing. And that can see
a couple of the physical piece if you wanted to.
I think it plays too much into what you already do. You're just walking over to someone's house with a camera for an appointment.
No, yeah, it's literally, well, and it's easier because it's a copy paste type thing. Like, this is what I was talking about earlier, saying, okay, where's a product? We're saying it costs us this much to make. We could sell it for this much. It's the exact same. It's literally just like, okay, we set up 2 camera angles. We set up this lighting in this specific format. Okay, here you go.
1 person, 2 people really at max. And
the big thing is finding a price point for it. That's what I'm like trying to.
What was your range originally?
I was thinking like $1,000.
I think
it's a very reasonable amount.
I think that makes sense. It's for a full, like, if you're how many minutes of video are you getting? You're assuming 40 minutes to an hour.
So I made one and I kind of see what the margins were with everything. So here's kind of what I was thinking is basically you shoot them for an hour. So it's an hour long worth of footage. In that hour long worth of footage, they can talk about kind of whatever they want. And then basically whatever your package is you choose, then it's basically like a 12-minute cut up version. So think of like an hour long podcast, and then you have a 12-minute highlight thing. Now you can put it into whatever your the booklet, the video booklet or whatever you want to use for it. And obviously it would change a little bit different if you want to do the time capsule, to where you just do like these little 3-minute increments. But I'm thinking you film for about 60 minutes. You're there for probably 2 hours, 15 minutes setup time, 15 minutes to figure out what we're talking about, getting everything, comfortable, and then, breaking everything down. And then about, like an hour's worth of just, camera at them, shooting, talking.
Love it.
So
now here's a question, maybe a tough question. How would you instruct a potential client to ask that and bring that idea up to a grandparent?
That's the hard part, is that the best marketing tool is very morbid.
Exactly.
The best marketing tool is, hey, you're not going to be around forever.
There's probably a way around that.
I disagree. I've mentioned it to my family since you told me it. Like, I'll be your first client for one, because I know at least my uncle, both my uncles and my dad and their descendants respectively would want that. I think it's an honor thing. Like, I want your advice immortalized for my kids or their kids' kids or their kids' kids' kids. What, do your parents think they're going to live forever? Like, that's what I'm saying. I do it at 26 for my kids. I'm not worried about death's door right this second, but it'd still be interesting just for me, because I think that would be so cool. Or, I mean, you talk about every creator ever wanting to pass down content and like some of your life advice to your kid. I've never recorded one piece of content that was specifically meant to give advice to my next generation, and I think there's no one really doing that.
I'm your grandpa. Pitch me.
Then the grandpa. I have a friend. He does this thing where he comes in and he does an interview for you. He interviews you and asks you all kinds of questions about your life and your life stories, and collects your wisdom and experience, and creates a video for us, so that we have a video of all these stories and everything you've been trying to tell us all these years that we can watch over and over and over again and pass down if we would like to. Like, what grandpa's going to be like, no, I hate telling those stories. Like, you're going to pay someone to come over and listen to my stories? Really? Like,
that's fair.
You all if you have a grandparent, 100% that I'm right. There's no one that would complain about that. You're going to get your grandpa in their best clothes, sit them in the best spot in the clouds, put lights and cameras on them, ask them about their lives. They'll be flattered. And I guarantee you, that's just not something. Yeah, maybe that's not. We think it would be awkward for maybe. I think my dad. When I asked him, he's like, "No, I'm not. I'm too ugly for that." That was his response. He was like, "I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to do that." But then I kind of made a point of it. I was like, it actually kind of got on my nerves. I was like, "Dad, I don't care. Like, I want this. This isn't like necessarily like about you thing as much as I want this. I want my kids to be able to have this. I don't care if you're camera shy. Like, get on camera." Yeah. Like, it'd be one thing if you didn't have anything to say, but like, just because you think you don't look great on camera, my dad looks fine on camera. He's just shy.
He's a handsome man.
Yeah, exactly. He's a handsome man. Exactly. He's a beautiful woman. So it's like, what are you doing? Get on camera. Tell me some life advice. She's a great life experience. But so I think not only is it something that would flatter the actual person being recorded, but it's going to be a hard no to say. Like, I realized how hard it was. It was like, I want you to record your advice and stories and information for my kids. You're saying no? Like, it is not really something you can say no to be honest with you. I'm going to pay for it. Like, so. I
think maybe even just taking the angle of focusing on the time capsule aspect. And
that's the best piece.
And just saying, hey, I think it would really be cool for my kids to have something that, like, just a time capsule for them to open, and you've got like a pre-thought out idea, and I think there's a way you could kind of avoid that subtext of like why do you want them to do it now, because they're not going to be able to do it later,
right? Well, I don't think that almost needs to be a subtext whatsoever, because I think you could do it at any age. I could definitely see myself right now taking 3 or 4 shots, giving it an hour, and then recording myself for my son's wedding.
3 or 4 shots.
So that I'm drunk at my son's wedding with like, bro, you did it. That'd be the best. If you had that of your dad or I had that of my mom, I'd lose my mind. Like, you know what I mean?
At the age right now, yeah.
Yeah, oh my gosh. It'd be crazy. It would be if you knew you had it for your wedding and it was set aside and you just didn't we didn't get a chance to look at it till then. I mean, that'd be more valuable than anything else I had.
If I have kids one day, I'm excited just to be able to show them like videos of me like doing the little breakdowns for this podcast and like doing podcasts and stuff.
I talk about that a lot.
Yeah, just to be able to like have them see what I was like at this age.
So that actually, that gives me a small segue. Actually, I'm going to go into a little bit about. I got 2 secret projects right now too, man.
Oh,
okay. I think about that. Reminded me of the second one. So we'll do the second one first, since it segues well there. So we're applying for a reality show, and we're just applying for it right now. But I wanted to mention to you guys what it is, because it's really, really interesting. That we did. Where Becca's been doing the acting stuff lately. She's been like doing a lot of different roles. Well, there's a role for a game show where you take a boat to the Bahamas and you are on a crew of other people who have also been picked, and you're essentially a small pirate crew in the Bahamas.
That's right up your alley.
And do you think? And your goal is to go and travel these different islands and navigate yourself and find treasure, and it's like Amazing Race with a pirate theme, right? But what they asked for the submission was they wanted proof that this was like the style thing you did all the time, that you're always out and on the water and on adventures and in the sun and doing this stuff, and that's kind of been your lifestyle. So I was kind of like, exactly like you said, right up my alley. I went and grabbed every video that I've made over the last decade of my life that I'm like, would you like one from when I was 12, one from when I was 15, or one from when I was 20? And I'm able to show this like progression of this is my lifestyle. I love this kind of stuff. And we got our first response from it because of that. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. So hopefully would that become something a little more. But the reason that I kind of brought that up is, as a piece of the secret project, is because the recording of content that I didn't really recognize what I would inevitably use it for, just a very small thing that I've been able to use it for, has built over time. Things I recorded 5 and 8 years ago, just to prove a point about my life, I've been able to use today. And I think that's something really cool that kind of ties into why we record content to pass down and why the time capsule works. Sometimes you just want, you don't realize how much having what you say and what you do actually proof and on record is important.
Patrick Bet David, actually, do you know who that is?
Yeah.
Okay. He actually mentioned that talking about recording content, that it's almost our responsibility now, because our grandkids need to be able to look back to see, this is where I get this from.
As far as second secret project goes, I want to bring this up a little bit. This is something I've also think I've mentioned to you both before. Definitely have mentioned to you, and I've been working on for about a year, almost a year and a half now, and it's officially finally kind of coming to a close. My book that I've been writing for the last year is finally going to be published at the end of this year. We're through the writing stages. We're on to like late editing stages. We're looking at traditional publishing options now. I wrote a fantasy book. It's really long. It's like 100,000 words. Are coming very close to 100,000 words. All fiction, just classic, traditional, high fantasy fiction. I kind of took the concept. Anyone read Treasure Island?
Yeah.
Watch Treasure Planet?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Watch Treasure Planet. It's Treasure Planet, except instead of boy goes to find massive treasure hoard in the sky, it's boy goes to find castle in the sky. So it's kind of a twist on the Treasure Island adventure a little bit, as I think is a very like. When I look at the base, I always kind of look at like what classic story is quintessentially the similar to what I'm writing. It's kind of a style, a coming of age adventure story, kind of like that. Very excited to release it. Covers, maps, concept art, everything necessary that needs to go in the book. Now we're just deciding who's going to pick it up. Essentially, that's about where we're at with it.
How that comes out. I mean, you've been working on that for a little while now. I remember when you first started working on it. It'll be cool to see it come out.
Yeah, I think it should. I've listened to the best authors in the industry, Brandon Sanderson and Robert Jordan and George R. R. Martin and everyone who's Tolkien and everyone who's ever wrote the best of high fantasy. I've listened to all of them, taken everything that I've been able to learn, walked through editors, and I'm getting to a point where I'm happy with it, where I actually like it, and I think that's like my big marker that I'm really, at the point where I'm done is even I read it and I'm like, okay, I enjoy this book.
What can you break down a quick what's the process? Okay, you write the book, do this.
So yeah, absolutely. So that's actually way more complicated now that I'm into it than I expected. So I guess I can break it down to 3 major steps just to make it really easy to work with. So the first step would be the world building of it, which is where I actually went in and decided, okay, where is this going to be held? Because in a fantasy setting, it's not, placed on a standard Earth. So what's their topography? What plants do they have? What languages? Are there animals? What type of animals? What countries? Where are the makeups of their armies? What are the lines of nations? All kinds of different things to a point of like in-depth ridiculousness. Like I could give you more information about the country in which my book takes place than there is actual information in the book. Mm-hmm. Then the second piece of it was story building. So I think it was character story, what's going to happen, why is there a conflict? So I know where this is taking place, but like why is it taking place, what's going on, and who's going to be involved. So that sounds like a small step, but that meant building out how my characters dress, their mannerisms, how they talk to each other, what their allegiances are, their family lines, all their relationships. So that then when I moved on to step 3, which is kind of actually the writing step, I had characters and I had a setting and I knew where the characters were going. And it became a point of just asking myself, okay, when this type A personality with this ties and these people in their past meets this type B personality with these people in their past and they both need to do this, how would those type of people interact? And you can think of people in your lives and other books you've read and other situations you've been in. And I think it seems much more natural that way, because instead of trying to force 2 blank characters on a blank world into a story that I've written, I'm more putting 2 people that already exist or that have already been built in a scenario and seeing how it works out. And I think that's how I write my books the best, and that's how I find them to write naturally.
That is more complicated than you would expect initially. That's cool though. I like.
My brain kind of hurts. Not gonna lie.
Not gonna lie, mine too.
It sounds like It sounds like a very in-depth, like immersive process.
People can tell when characters and settings in books are flat. To get a person that feels real and legitimate, I mean, y'all probably don't read very much fantasy or fiction in period. I bet a lot of the reason is because when you read it, it probably doesn't hook you in the same way it does a lot of other people. And I think a lot of people, that's because they enter through sometimes lower level fantasy, Harry Potter, things of that nature. And the characters,
Harry Potter's lower level?
No, Harry Potter's fantastic, but it's considered what's called middle level, which is like aimed at middle schoolers and high schoolers. Oh. There's a whole genre of fantasy that's aimed at
5th grade.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Brody read them in 5th grade.
Even the big books.
Even the big books.
But
there's a whole genre they're pitched to adults and adult personalities and adult themes. And I think if you don't have those personalities built out ahead of time, then the characters fall flat or one-dimensional, and they become very uninteresting to the adult audience that I'm going for, I guess.
Agreed. Yeah. You gotta make it complex to make it interesting.
Yep. Always gotta be working on something new.
Now, I know we have to wrap this up soon, but I have a couple repeat questions I ask in every interview now, and I've gotten to ask you both the first one, but I have a newer one that I've not gotten to ask you both. I'll start with you, Andy. What does it mean to you personally to be a professional?
Oh gosh, I don't think I view myself as a professional, honestly.
I view you as a professional.
I think.
What does it take to be a professional?
I'm glad you asked him first.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, I put you on the spot.
So, when I think a professional, I think of somebody that is, and again, this doesn't translate to everything. This is just when I think professional. I probably first assimilate it to sports. So I think top of top of the list. The best to do it in that industry. So obviously, there's plenty of professionals around, but my specific goals is to continue to rise in the ranks. And I know y'all see me as a professional, but I don't see myself as a professional yet, because the professionals I look up to, I don't think see me as a professional. They still see me as a young kid, which I am, which I'm perfectly fine with. But I want Jacksonville. You're shaking your head, but I want Jacksonville, for companies in Jacksonville to view me as this. Oh, they're a very good media agency, media company here in Jacksonville. They do great work. Not because as of right now, if you know Varnes Media, you don't think of Varnes Media. You think of me. Correct?
No, I think of Varnes Media now.
You think of Varnes Media now?
When the sign went on the door.
Shift.
Yeah, it is a recent shift. When the words went on the door.
With having the studio and having a couple people helping you out.
See, I think you're behind on everyone's updated image, and that's.
If you go on the Varnes Media Instagram, you've got like other people making content for you now. You've got Marcel like making videos.
I don't even know your employees. I know people work for you
that don't feature you at all. Like it's definitely it's been a recent shift, but I would say no. You think of Varnes Media, the name, Varnes Media, the studio. Think of like some of the clients as now.
You have Chef on the Fly. Like you're not, there's more than like y'all. You're professional. Everything you do is professional. I'm going to steal that question for 1 second. A professional to me is someone who's using their skills that they've acquired through their professional career. So like everything you've done for work, even if you're a cook in a restaurant, right? But you lead that into making cooking content, and then you take that into getting a job as a hibachi chef, and then you take that into being a personal chef, and you take that to owning a restaurant. Any step in that process to me outside of the first one is a professional. So if you're still on that first step, you don't have any skills, you're learning at your base level, you're not a professional. But once you're using skill sets to grow your own thing, that's what makes a professional to me. Whether you're like an entrepreneur and you're in a company and you're just growing your influence and your money and yourself within a company, or whether you're building your own thing like Varnes Media or like Profession Session or like everything that we all do, either way, I think you're a professional at that point.
I think the technical term is somebody that gets paid for a specific skill.
Yeah.
So
but then everyone's a professional.
Exactly. So like a lot of people ask me, so when did you consider yourself a professional photographer?
Yeah.
Technically, I became a professional photographer when I charged somebody like
$1.
Yeah, like a couple dollars.
And suddenly
I'm being paid for my work, and so I'm known as a professional. I think. I don't know.
Making a living.
Yeah, I think you have to be. I think
you got to be surviving off of it.
I think you have to be making
a living off of your skill.
At least not necessarily a full-time living, because I don't
percentage.
At least a part-time, to where you're saying, okay, this I can at least designate as part of my life income to this specific.
You're a professional when you make $20K a year or more in what you're doing there. I'm putting a number on it.
$20K.
$20K a year or more.
I think that's a fair amount.
Someone can live off of $20K right now.
Yeah.
You won't live well. You'll be emaciated a little bit, but you'll make it. If you're doing $20K, you're paying yourself, roughly $2,000 a month, or getting money, $2,000 a month worth of it. You could do that with a part-time job if you were, and you would be putting $2,000 back into the company, and you could 100%.
And a lot of people could go out and get someone to pay $1 for a cool picture that they took, but not a lot of people could retain clients with repeat business.
Exactly.
I think there are just different levels and different steps to it. And I like both of your perspectives. To sum it up, I would say to you, it sounds like being a professional is always striving to improve in your skill set in your industry and be one of the best. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I like that perspective because it is always going to keep you on your toes. You're always going to, I have a feeling you could be considered one of the top professionals in your field in the country, and I don't think you would consider yourself one of the top.
And he's playing one of those games where you just get a little better every time but never win.
Yeah. Well, you have
I'm just a hamster on a wheel, sadly.
Yeah, you're
just
professional on the glass in front of him.
Yeah, just.
And then it sounds like to you, Devin, you would say it is being able to build a skill set and leverage that into a living.
Exactly.
You're
That's mine exactly.
You're just much happier than mine.
Yeah, if you're leveraging
mine's much more critical.
If you're leveraging a skill set in a living, you're a professional. There are plenty of people who have skill sets that they can't leverage into a living, and there are plenty of people that make livings but have absolutely no skill in what they do. Both those categories are not professional. I think if you cover the Venn diagram, you hit both. It's something you have skills in, true skills that other people can't replicate, and you can make money with them. You're a professional.
I love it.
Above $20K a year.
Well, anything else you guys would want to contribute to this conversation?
Thank you, Brody, for having us on.
Thank you so much.
Andy, thank you for letting us use your studio.
Absolutely.
Made for a really cool setup.
It did.
All right.
Awesome. Well, this has been Profession Session. Check the show notes or the description on the video for all the details of everything we've talked about, links, websites, all of it. And until then, stay tuned for new episodes of Profession Session. We're tuning out. Thanks so much for tuning into Profession Session. I'm your host, Brody Vinson. Stay tuned for new episodes every week and short clips of deep dives into specific topics that I put out on different social media channels. We could be found on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, all major podcast platforms. You can find my guest in the details of this video or podcast. And if you happen to know a young standout business owner, professional, or entrepreneur that you would think would be a good fit for Profession Session, DM me or get in contact with me anywhere and just let me know. And they could be the next to tell their story here. Until next time, again, this has been Profession Session. Stay focused, stay hustling, and stay networking.